In this video, we're going to be talking about graven images and what God established in the Bible regarding graven images. The Hebrew word for graven image is pesel. It's used interchangeably with graven image and also idol. And we're going to take a look at how God used it in a sentence. So the first place he used this in a sentence was in Exodus 24. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Leviticus 26:1. Ye shall make you no idols or graven image, neither rear you up a standing image, neither shall ye set up any image of stone in your land to bow down unto it, for I am the Lord your God. Deuteronomy 4:16, lest ye corrupt yourselves and make you a graven image, the similitude of any figure, the likeness of male or female, the likeness of any beast that is on the earth, the likeness of any winged fowl that flieth in the air, the likeness of anything that creepeth on the ground, the likeness of any fish that is in the waters beneath the earth. And lest thou lift up thine eyes unto heaven, and when thou seest the sun, the moon, and the stars, even all the host of heaven, shouldest be driven to worship them and serve them, which the Lord thy God hath divided unto all the nations under the whole heaven. But the Lord hath taken you, and brought you forth out of the iron furnace, even out of Egypt, to be unto him a people of inheritance, as ye are this day. Deuteronomy 4:23, take heed unto yourselves, lest ye forget the covenant of the Lord your God, which he made with you, and make you a graven image, or the likeness of anything which the Lord thy God hath forbidden thee. Deuteronomy 4:25, when thou shalt beget children and children's children, and ye shall have remained long in the land, and shall corrupt yourselves, and make a graven image, or the likeness of anything, and shall do evil in the sight of the Lord thy God, to provoke him to anger. I call heaven and earth to witness against you this day, that ye shall soon utterly perish from off the land, whereunto ye go over Jordan to possess it. Ye shall not prolong your days upon it, but shall be utterly destroyed. Okay, so that's clear. We know that the idol of jealousy is going to incite or provoke God's jealous wrath, and that anyone that bows down to it, anyone who receives the mark of the beast, this is serious business. God will destroy them. The smoke of their torment is going to rise forever and ever. So this is something that we really need to be awake about. What this is. Are we willing to fast and be free of idols on a regular basis? Are we willing to fast, to circumcise our flesh, to discipline our flesh, so that we make sure that this can't even enter our heart? Deuteronomy 5:8, thou shalt not make thee any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the waters beneath the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself unto them, nor serve them, for I, the Lord thy God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, and shewing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. Deuteronomy 27:15, cursed be the man that maketh any graven or molten image, an abomination unto the Lord, the work of the hands of the craftsman, and putteth it in a secret place, and all the people shall answer and say, Amen. Okay, I'm switching over to the NIV version because I don't see any purpose in making this more difficult for me to speak or understand. 2 Kings 21:7. He took the carved Asherah pole he had made and put it in the temple, of which the Lord said to David and to his son Solomon, in this temple and in Jerusalem, which I have chosen out of all the tribes of Israel, I will put my name forever. I will not again make the feet of the Israelites wander from the land I gave their ancestors, if only they will be careful to do everything I commanded them, and will keep the whole law that my servant Moses gave them. But the people did not listen. Manasseh led them astray, so that they did more evil than the nations the Lord had destroyed before the Israelites. The Lord said through his servants, the prophets, Manasseh, king of Judah, has committed these detestable sins. He has done more evil than the Amorites who preceded him, and has led Judah into sin with his idols. Now, remember, we're kind of crossing over to the language of idols in NIV, that's what's being used more, but it's the same language. It's the same thing as graven image in King James Version. Therefore, this is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. I'm going to bring such disaster on Jerusalem and Judah that the ears of everyone who hears of it will tingle. I will stretch out over Jerusalem the measuring line used against Samaria and the plumb line used against the house of Ahab. I will wipe out Jerusalem as one wipes a dish, wiping it and turning it upside down. I will forsake the remnant of my inheritance and give them into the hands of enemies. They will be looted and plundered by all their enemies. They have done evil in my eyes and have aroused my anger from the day their ancestors came out of Egypt until this day. Moreover, Manasseh also shed so much innocent blood that he filled Jerusalem from end to end, besides the sin that he had caused Judah to commit, so that they did evil in the eyes of the Lord. As for the other events of Manasseh's reign and all he did, including the sin he committed, are they not written in the book of the annals of the kings of Judah? Manasseh rested with his ancestors and was buried in his place, in his palace garden, the garden of Uzzah, and Ammon his son succeeded him as king. So you hear what God is going to do to those who have idols. And I want you to remember that when there was a temple, that people were setting up idols in the temple. But when that shift happened, when Jesus came and he tabernacled among us, that was the first time we heard about a tabernacle or a human being being a tabernacle. Who has ever heard of such a thing? That's the first time we hear that in the word, of a human being being a tabernacle, a human being having the Spirit of God. And that's the reason why Jesus said to the Samaritan woman at the well, a time is coming and has now come. Well, that sounds kind of weird. Has it come or has it not? Well, it has now come because he was filled with the Spirit of God, and a time was coming because we, his people, would also be filled with the Spirit of God once he was glorified. Now, what's the context with which he said that? She asked him, she said, you Jews say that we are supposed to be worshiping in Jerusalem, in the temple. And he said, a time is coming and has now come when you will neither worship in Jerusalem or in the temple, but true worshipers will worship in the Spirit and in truth. What's truth? In his word, in the Spirit, meaning his Spirit. And he said, God is Spirit, and true worshipers must worship in the Spirit and in truth. So not in a temple, not in Jerusalem, not in a cathedral, not in a, some sort of congregation of man, some sort of Christian tradition or denomination. What is all that? Jesus didn't reference that. He said, true worshipers must, emphasis on must and emphasis on true. True worshipers must worship in the Spirit and in truth. Why am I making such a big deal out of this? Because prior to us being a temple, he demonstrated idols being set up in the temple of God. You know, that temple that he told David and Solomon, in this temple and in Jerusalem, which I have chosen out of all the tribes of Israel, I will put my name forever. I will not again make the feet of the Israelites wander from the land I gave their ancestors, if only they will be careful to do everything I commanded them, and will keep the whole law that my servant Moses gave them. And they didn't do it. And that was also the plan, that they weren't going to do it, because frankly, God wanted to extend salvation to the Gentiles. He also wanted those who were stiff-necked to understand that it has nothing to do with them, the reason that why he chose them to be saved. What does have to do with them is whether or not they're fulfilling the covenant. And what does have to do with us is whether or not we're fulfilling the covenant. But even the things we're doing in that covenant is not what's saving us, because ultimately we could do those things. And if Jesus hadn't done his part, if the Father hadn't chosen us, what would we save ourselves? It is the will of the Father that we understand that it is not by us that we are saved, that it's not because of our righteousness. Our righteousness is filthy rags before him. He wants Gentiles who've been grafted in. He wants Jews who are going to be saved. He wants us all to understand that it is not by us that we are saved. It is only by his mercy and his sovereign choice that he predestined us for that category. and that he then moves us to fulfill the covenant that we have to fulfill. So those of you who are struggling with the affliction that he's given you, the things that he keeps, that he does to you in order to keep you low, in order to keep you close, in order to call you in, those of you who are struggling with that need to understand what he's doing, that he disciplines those he loves. And if you truly have been predestined for that category and he's doing these things to you, you need to receive that. And you need to prefer salvation over whatever it is you think you want in this life. That's not to say that your symptoms will not remit. I absolutely 100% know that he will relent when you return to him. But I'm starting to learn more and more that we have to actually accept and come to that realization and that desire to please him more than wanting to make our symptoms go away. We have to come to understanding before that's even going to happen. And that's a heart issue. It's got to be a heart issue that we are truly rending our hearts to, you know what, if this never goes away, or if he's going to keep me this low in order to save me, then I'll accept that. But I'm going to learn what it is that he's showing me, and I think then it's going to break. That's my personal experience. I shared with you, in the last week, a situation that I had. And the first thing that I went back and said to him, which was, really, is my sin compensatory to this? And then I had to check myself and I had to whittle myself down to, you know what? If this is what his will is, then I know that he's teaching me something. I know he's doing something here. I can't be in the attitude of make this go away, especially when I know I sinned against him. And after days of me receiving what it is that he was teaching me, how he was rebuking me, how he was disciplining me, the additional things that he wanted to teach me that didn't have to do with my sin, he has given me peace. He has built me, and the consequences of what I did and the things that he needed to send in order for me to learn, they've remitted. Listen, I'm going to be paying about, I think, $1,000 more than I would have paid. Actually, I think it's a little over $1,000 more than I would have paid, because I'm having to pick up after this person who left a disaster in my driveway. But even with that, God's using it to continue to teach me, and he's given me peace over it. It's not something that I'm sitting here going, oh, I'm too scared that God's not going to take care of me. I know that God's going to take care of me. I also know that that's part of my consequence. And whatever my consequence is needs to be understood. I need to understand it that way. And you know that it's not because I have so much money and so much money's coming in. I'm paying into what I'm doing. Okay, so the point being that us being the temple, we have to engage in regular fasting so that we can become aware of the idols that we've been placing before him, the idols that we've been putting in his temple. Do you get that? The shift from the physical temple, that idol of stone or whatever it is, that, bird statue that people were bowing down to. Do you think God is upset about the stone? Because the stone is nothing. And neither is the idol. No, he's upset about what's in our hearts. What are we bringing into our hearts? And this is why I keep telling you, you got to come out of Babylon, but Babylon's got to come out of you. Those idols have to come out of you. So I don't want you to limit your understanding in terms of what a graven image is, in terms of what an idol is. Setting up an idol in the temple of God could very well simply mean what is in being set up in your heart. Counterfeit Christianity, for example, is counterfeit Christianity set up in your heart and all the things that go along with it. I've talked about some of those things in these videos. Sunday Sabbath, Christmas, Easter, serving both God and money, which, people are in the habit of doing, making a financial ministry of God. I mean, that's crazy. And don't think that I'm judging you, because in the beginning, I thought this was how I was going to make my livelihood. Let me tell you something. If you're making a livelihood out of serving God, you're not serving God. No one wants this. And he's very clearly said you can't serve both God and money. So yeah, that's going to tick some people off, but that's the bottom line. You want to take it up with someone, take it up with God. He's the one who said it. He doesn't have me making money off of what I'm doing. In fact, I gave up my entire career, and he doesn't have me making money this way. He just conforms certain things to work for the good of those who love him. I am living at his mercy. And actually, that is the low position that I need to be in order to actually serve him. How can I teach you to do it if I'm not doing it? How can I teach you to do that if I'm John MacArthur making $1.5 million a year? Or Joel Osteen, who has so much money he's hiding cash in his walls? Or Kenneth Copeland flying private jets? How am I going to be able to teach you how to take the lowly position? How am I going to be able to teach you how to serve? Because those people are not serving you, they're serving themselves. Not only that, these are people who take the position of honor. Where's my honor? Where's my honor here in this world? You tell me, where's my glory? I'm mocked, I'm accused, I have given up all of my notoriety and money. I serve you for free. I expose my sin as an offering so that you can understand how to do this work and the process that I go through. What more can I give? And I expect at some point that I'll be giving my life for what I'm doing. Okay, so this is where we need to get to, is getting all of those idols out of our hearts, fasting on a regular basis, engaging in Sabbath correctly, where we're continuing to return to him. And in that return, we're examining ourselves and we're checking ourselves. Are we feeling like we want to go and, binge watch something on TV? Is that how we're spending our Sabbath? Are we distracted with our phones? Are we able to sit and hear him and get into his presence? Because if you can't get into his presence yet, you haven't circumcised yet or disciplined the flesh. You have not fully given yourself to him, and you haven't given up your idols. There are things that are standing between you and him. And you heard what I read about those idols. Just because that's talking about the idol inside of the physical temple, you have to rend your heart and come into understanding of what God established in order to teach you, with tangible symbolism, what he's attempting to teach you spiritually about the idols that are in your heart. If you're bowing down to something, the sin is not the bowing down. The sin is what is in your heart. And the bowing down is a product of that. Inasmuch as you can engage in certain behaviors that and say, such as saying that you love God, but what's in your heart? You can have the appearance of godliness but deny his power. You can honor him with your lips, but your heart is far from him. This should help you to understand graven image, idol, and what it is that incites God's jealous wrath. Psalm 97:7. All who worship images are put to shame. Those who boast in idols, worship him, all you gods. Isaiah 40:19. As for an idol, a metalworker casts it, and a goldsmith overlays it with gold and fashions silver chains for it. A person too poor to present such an offering selects wood that will not rot. They look for a skilled worker to set up an idol that will not topple. I just like God's sense of humor here, because, it is really ridiculous if you think about it. Do you not know? Have you not heard? Has it not been told to you from the beginning? Have you not understood since the earth was founded? He sits enthroned above the circle of the earth, and its people are like grasshoppers. He stretches out the heavens like a canopy and spreads them out like a tent to live in. He brings princes to naught and reduces the rulers of this world to nothing. No sooner are they planted, no sooner are they sown, no sooner do they take root in the ground, than he blows on them and they wither, and a whirlwind sweeps them away like chaff. To whom will you compare me? Or who is my equal, says the Holy One? Lift up your eyes and look to the heavens. Who created all these? He who brings out the starry host one by one and calls for each of them by name. Because of his great power and mighty strength, not one of them is missing. Why do you complain, Jacob? Why do you say, Israel, my way is hidden from the Lord, my cause is disregarded by my God? Do you not know? Have you not heard? The Lord is the everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth. He will not grow tired or weary, and his understanding no one can fathom. He gives strength to the weary and increases the power of the weak. Even youths grow tired and weary, and young men stumble and fall. But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint. And the irony here is that we have to be brought low in order for this to happen. But it truly is so interesting to me, because there's not this like drastic swinging, from one end of the spectrum to the other end of the spectrum. It's just when you're living in him, you're kept low, and you know that he's your strength. And because there are things that you cannot do. And when you start to get weak, you're praying, Lord, strengthen me. And he strengthens you in your weakness. Is that making sense to anyone? Does anyone get this? He doesn't puff you up as you once lived. He strengthens you in your weakness, in your submission, in your lowly servitude. He's not going to puff you up into this, state of adrenaline or pride or mania to thinking that you're good by the work of your hands, that you're confident, that you have self-esteem. No, your confidence is going to be in him, and you're going to know. But it's in that lowly state that you feel that. And in that, you learn how to delight in the fear of the Lord. You learn how to delight in being weak, being small, being right-sized in your position to him. Isaiah 42:17, but those who trust in idols, who say to images, you are our gods, will be turned back in utter shame. Isaiah 44:9, all who make idols are nothing, and the things they treasure are worthless. Those who would speak up for them are blind. They are ignorant to their own shame. This is so interesting because anytime that I'm speaking up against science, human experts, politicians, anytime that I'm speaking about that and I'm bringing it right-sized and I'm bringing the perspective of, look, these people are nothing. This, false gospel of science is nothing. God doesn't have to go by scientific properties. How scientific is it to, make a little mud in Christ's hand out of spit and dirt, put it over the eyes of a blind man and tell him to go wash in the pool of Siloam, meaning sent, the one that is sent, and his sight is restored? How scientific is that? How scientific is casting out demons? What about the things that are happening right now? The ways that he's harming the earth. And people are saying, oh, scientists didn't see that coming. Yeah, go figure. But when I speak up against it, you wouldn't believe the people who come against what I'm saying, who will defend their idols as though I just insulted their mother. Many who are self-proclaimed Christians, no doubt. I'm on this forum for people in the surrounding neighborhoods or whatever, and I think about 5 times I've actually blocked any notifications from this group because I just can't stand the things that people say. It's an irritant to me. And someone, ever so often someone posts about these conspiracy theories or whatever. And I actually recognized at least one self-proclaimed Christian on there engaging in this whole conspiracy thing. Well, what about what God says in Isaiah 8:12? Do not call conspiracy everything this people calls a conspiracy. Do not fear what they fear, and do not dread it. Stop talking about how they're pouring chemicals in the air and they're creating, global warming. If in fact someone's doing something like that, if in fact there is a global conspiracy where the kings of the earth are, dropping chemicals out of the sky, creating global warming, and I don't put anything past anyone on this earth, but whatever is going on, God has sent it. If he's using someone to do that in order to fulfill his words, he's still sovereign. And the thing he tells us to do is to return to him, and he will heal our land, and he will restore us, and our enemies will not rule over us. Why are we spending our time on stuff that we can't even control? The solution is so easy. It's such a simple, straightforward solution. God's people have been in captivity many, many times before. What power did they have to break that and deliver themselves? What power do we have? I'll tell you, return. But people will defend those conspiracy theories more than they'll defend their God. I don't hear anyone that adamant about God and his word as they are about their idols, conspiracy theories, politics. If only we were that passionate about God and what he's established, his truth. Who's out there campaigning for him? So all who make idols are nothing. The things they treasure are worthless. Those who would speak up for them are blind. They're ignorant to their own shame. Who shapes a god and casts an idol which can profit nothing? People who do that will be put to shame. Such craftsmen are only human beings. Let them all come together and take their stand. They will be brought down to terror and shame. The blacksmith takes a tool and works with it in the coals. He shapes an idol with hammers. He forges it with the might of his arm. He gets hungry and loses his strength. He drinks no water and grows faint. The carpenter measures with a line and makes an outline with a marker. He roughs it out with chisels and marks it with compasses. He shapes it in human form in all its glory, that it may dwell in a shrine. He cuts down cedars and perhaps took a cypress or oak. He let it grow among the trees of the forest, or planted a pine, and the rain made it grow. It is used as fuel for burning. Some of it he takes and warms himself. He kindles a fire and bakes bread, but he also fashions a god and worships it. He makes an idol and bows down to it. Half of the wood he burns in the fire. Over it he prepares his meal. He roasts his meat and eats his fill. He also warms himself and says, "Ah, I'm warm, I see the fire." From the rest he makes a god, his idol. He bows down to it and worships. He prays to it and says, "Save me, you are my God." They know nothing. They understand nothing. Their eyes are plastered over so they cannot see, and their minds closed so they cannot understand. No one stops to think. No one has the knowledge or understanding to say, "Half of it I used for fuel. I even baked bread over its coals. I roasted meat and I ate. Shall I make a detestable thing from what's left? Shall I bow down to a block of wood?" Such a person feeds on ashes. A deluded heart misleads him. He cannot save himself or say, "Is not this thing in my right hand a lie?" Remember these things, Jacob, for you, Israel, are my servant. I have made you. You are my servant, Israel. I will not forget you. I have swept away your offenses like a cloud, your sins like the morning mist. Return to me, for I have redeemed you. Sing for joy, you heavens, for the Lord has done this. Shout aloud, you earth beneath. Burst into song, you mountains, you forests, and all you trees. For the Lord has redeemed Jacob. He displays his glory in Israel. Isaiah 45:20, gather together and come. Assemble, you fugitives from the nations. Ignorant are those who carry about idols of wood, who pray to gods that cannot save. Isaiah 48:5, therefore I told you these things long ago. Before they happened, I announced them to you so that you could not say, my images brought them about. My wooden image and metal god ordained them. Do you hear people saying this? The scientists have been warning us. They've been telling us about global warming. They've been telling us that we got to get our act together. God told us like thousands of years ago that we needed to get our act together, and that when he started sending these things, he told us exactly what to do. Are we now crediting Al Gore and the science gods? When God was the one who said, hey, when I send these things, when these things start happening, here's what you need to do. Before they happened, I announced them to you so you could not say, my images brought them about, my wooden image and metal god ordained them. Jeremiah 10:14, everyone is senseless and without knowledge. Every goldsmith is shamed by his idols. The images he makes are a fraud. They have no breath in them. Jeremiah 51:17, everyone is senseless and without knowledge. Every goldsmith is shamed by his idols. The images he makes are a fraud. They have no breath in them. Interesting. Word for word. Jeremiah 10:14 and 51:17. Nahum 1:14, the Lord has given a command concerning you, Nineveh. You will have no descendants to bear your name. I will destroy the images and idols that are in the temple of your gods. I will prepare your grave, for you are vile. Of what value is an idol carved by a craftsman, or an image that teaches lies? For the one who makes it trusts in his own creation. He makes idols that cannot speak. So now we're going to take a look at a word in Hebrew, semel. This also is referring to image, statue, and idol, but why is God using a different word here? That's something that I would like to know. And the reason I looked it up is because I got to the end of those scriptures and I'm not seeing the idol that provokes to jealousy. So is this a different type of idol? Well, let's study and let's find out. There seems to be some sort of crossover between these two words, but I would like to know what's the difference between semel and pesel. Let's see if we can figure this out. So Deuteronomy 4:16, we have the similar concept, so that you do not become corrupt and make for yourselves an idol, an image of any shape, whether formed like a man or a woman. In fact, this is the same passage that we read for pesel. And also, as I'm looking down at these other passages here, 2 Chronicles 33, the same word is being used in the same context, or the semel and pesel are both being used in this context. So what we want to look at is what is the difference between Semel and Pasel in Hebrew? Or what's the overlap? What are the different aspects that God is getting at with regard to this idol? So Semel is translated symbol, emblem, logo, badge, crest. But I think the most salient aspect of Semel, as I'm looking at the different definitions, is likeness, whereas Pasel is more of a graven or carved image. Both are a carved image, but Pasel seems to get more at that aspect of it being a graven or carved image, whereas Semel gets more to the likeness. And I think it's really interesting that one of the aspects of Semel is symbol or sign. And the Catholic Church uses this very strategically. They say that Constantine had a dream in which Christ appeared to him and told him, by this sign you will conquer. What word do you think in Hebrew you might use for that sign? You think it might be image? You think it might be idol or symbol? Semel. Also emblem, logo, badge, crest. In fact, he even supposedly put that image on the shields of his warriors. And it's become this image of counterfeit Christianity. We were never supposed to have an image, and you see that cross everywhere. What does that have to do with Christianity? What's supposed to be in our heart is the significance of what Jesus did on the cross, not the cross itself. That's an image. That is an idol. And I think the reason why God uses these two different words to get at these different aspects of what an idol is for the same reason that he starts out with tangible symbolism and then wants us to understand spiritual symbolism. That people were literally carving their gods up, carving up an image, and then using things as symbols, as signs. How are people supposed to know that you're a Christian? Do they know that you're a Christian because you wear a cross around your neck? Or do they know that you're a Christian because what's coming from your heart is coming out in your deeds, your thoughts, and what you speak? Being in God's image happens through lived faith, not through an image on your neck or your rear view mirror. In the 6th year, in the 6th month, on the 5th day, while I was sitting in my house and the elders of Judah were sitting before me, the hand of the sovereign Lord came on me there. I looked and I saw a figure like that of a man. From what appeared to be his waist down, he was like fire, and from there up, his appearance was as bright as glowing metal. He stretched out what looked like a hand and took me by the hair of my head. The Spirit lifted me up between earth and heaven, and in visions of God, he took me to Jerusalem, to the entrance of the north gate of the inner court, where the idol that provokes to jealousy stood. Now, I told you in the video that I posted earlier today that the cross comes from false god worship of the god Tammuz, who is the fertility god and a sun god. That's where that cross comes from. You can't get any more clear than what I'm going to read to you now. He's talking about the idol that provokes to jealousy. In a short while, he's going to be talking about the god Tammuz and the women who are mourning and the men who are bowing down to the sun. I also talked with you about Christmas, how that was implemented by Constantine. December 25th is not the birth of Jesus Christ. December 25th is understood to be the birth date of the god Mithras, who bears some similarities to Christ, was said to be born of a virgin mother, who also is venerated. If you want to know more about those similarities, you can listen to that video. But what do you think? How do you think that God feels about us doing these things? Feels about us celebrating a pagan holiday in which we're actually worshiping that false god? Because you can't possibly worship God by lifting up a holiday and practices that people use to worship this false god. How can you do that? You just slap a cross on it and it becomes Christian. Slap Christ's name on it, it becomes Christian. Do you think that these are things that provoke jealousy? Images that are set up in our hearts, symbols, signs that are set up in our hearts that provoke to jealousy. And then when they're pointed out to us, we make excuses and we say, "Oh, I just need to celebrate it to him, and then we're good." Where's that coming from? It's coming from our hearts. So before I actually read the rest of Ezekiel, I want to read something to you here. This comes from Exodus 13, verse 6. For 7 days eat bread made without yeast, and on the seventh day hold a festival to the Lord. Eat unleavened bread during those 7 days. Nothing with yeast in it is to be seen among you, nor shall any yeast be seen anywhere within your borders. For those of you who don't know, this is referring to Passover. On that day, tell your son, Passover is what we celebrate, what we're supposed to be celebrating, while the rest of the world is celebrating Easter. And I addressed that earlier, that Easter and Christmas come from that false god worship of Mithras. Eat unleavened bread during those 7 days. Nothing with yeast in it is to be seen among you, nor shall any yeast be seen anywhere within your borders. On that day, tell your son, I do this because of what the Lord did for me when I came out of Egypt. This observance will be for you like a sign on your hand and a reminder on your forehead. Where is the sign? Where is the mark? Where is the seal? The mark of the beast, the seal of God. This observance will be for you like a sign on your hand and a reminder on your forehead that this law of the Lord is to be on your lips. Well, that's interesting because we're going to be justified by our hearts. And what is coming from our heart is going to come out of our right hand, our foreheads, and our mouths, our lips. We will declare it with our lips. But where are we justified? In our hearts. Because from there will come what is in our right hand, in our forehead, and out of our mouths. So for those who are so attached to these holidays and being of the world, oh, but I have kids, I can't do this to them. How will they ever get through life if they, can't live as the world does? Well, you need to be teaching them now how to not live as the world does, or they're not going to be able to do it when they're older. For the Lord brought you out of Egypt with his mighty hand. You must keep this ordinance at the appointed time, year after year. Again, it will be for you like a sign on your hand and a reminder on your forehead that this law of the Lord is to be on your lips. We're supposed to remember this. This isn't supposed to be something that we think like, oh no, that's just, that's something that the Jews had to do. That was their burden. No, we're supposed to be Jews. We're supposed to be engrafted into the Commonwealth of Israel when we come to believe. We're supposed to do all of the things that God commanded. Christ said, not one jot or tittle, not the least stroke of a pen is going to be abolished. So how do we justify this? This counterfeit Christianity will be like a sign of the mark while holding on to God's holy days, and his truth will also be a sign. And the sign of what's in our hearts is going to come out of our right hand, our foreheads, our lips. This is not just a matter of whether you're comfortable not celebrating Christmas or Easter. This is a sign of what's in your heart. Back to Ezekiel 8:3. He stretched out what looked like a hand and took me by the hair of my head. The Spirit lifted me up between the earth and heaven, and in visions of God, he took me to Jerusalem, to the entrance of the north gate of the inner court, where the idol that provokes to jealousy stood. Now let's see what the idol is. And there before me was the glory of the God of Israel, as in the vision I had seen in the plain. By the way, Ezekiel is being shown the third temple. We are the third temple. So pay attention to what's going on inside of that third temple, inside of the heart, the Holy of Holies, where God's Spirit, his presence, dwells. There before me was the glory of the God of Israel, as in the vision I had seen in the plain. Then he said to me, Son of man, look toward the north. So I looked, and in the entrance of the north of the gate of the altar, I saw this idol of jealousy. And he said to me, Son of man, do you see what they're doing? The utterly detestable things the Israelites are doing here, things that will drive me far from my sanctuary, but you will see things that are even more detestable. Okay, we haven't seen the idol that provokes to jealousy yet. Keep listening. Keep paying attention to when we get there, because there's a lot that happens in between, and you might lose. If you're not looking for it, you might lose it. And he said to me, Son of man, do you see what they're doing? The utterly detestable things the Israelites are doing here, things that will drive me far from my sanctuary, but you will see things that are even more detestable. Then he brought me to the entrance of the court. I looked, and I saw a hole in the wall. He said to me, Son of man, dig into the wall. So I dug into the wall, and I saw a doorway there. And he said to me, go in and see the wicked and detestable things they're doing here. So I went in and looked, and I saw portrayed all over the walls all kinds of crawling things and unclean animals and the idols of Israel. In front of them stood 70 elders of Israel, and Jazaniah, son of Shaphan, was standing among them. Each had a censer in his hand, and a fragrant cloud of incense was rising. He said to me, Son of man, have you seen what the elders of Israel are doing in the darkness, each at the shrine of his own idol? They say, the Lord does not see us. The Lord has forsaken the land. Again, he said, you will see them doing things that are even more detestable. So we haven't gotten there yet. Then he brought me to the entrance of the north gate of the house of the Lord, and I saw women sitting there mourning the god Tammuz. Where did I tell you that sign that Constantine was supposedly told by Jesus, that sign, that image, by this sign you will conquer? Where does it come from? Well, my friends, that is the sign, the image of Tammuz. He said to me, do you see this, son of man? You will see things that are even more detestable than this. He then brought me into the inner court of the house of the Lord, and there was at the entrance of the temple between the portico and the altar were about 25 men with their backs turned toward the temple of the Lord and their faces toward the east. They were bowing down to the sun in the east. What is the god Tammuz? The god of. He is a sun god, and he is understood to be the god of fertility. So the women are mourning fertility, the men are bowing down to the sun. He said to me, have you seen this, son of man? Is it a trivial matter for the people of Judah to do the detestable things that they are doing here? Must they also fill the land with violence and continually arouse my anger? Look at them putting the branch to their nose. Putting the branch to their nose is a way of saying that they incite my anger. They incite my wrath. Therefore, I will deal with them in my anger. I will not look on them with pity or spare them. Although they shout in my ears, I will not listen to them. Have we arrived at the idol that provokes to jealousy? Because he's not saying that we're going to see anything else. He stopped right there. Right there, he stopped with them bowing down to the god Tammuz. What have I told you that the mark of the beast is? Counterfeit Christianity. How is it represented? What is the image that it is represented with? The cross of Tammuz. Now look, I'm kind of blown away because it's 3 o'clock in the morning here. I haven't been to bed. God has been putting this on my heart for several hours. I had no idea that this is where he was going to lead me. You heard me going through the video. I'm going through it in real time with you. But that is clear confirmation yet again. And he continues to confirm that I'm on the right track in terms of what he has revealed to me about the mark being counterfeit Christianity. And here we have yet more affirmation regarding the image. In Ezekiel, regarding the third temple, what are we doing in our hearts? What are we attached to? What are we bowing down to? We need to be fasting and returning to him, or we're not even going to know. We're not even going to know what needs to come out of us. I hope this video has been helpful in terms of helping you to understand what the idol, what the image, what a graven image is. And I hope that it's confirming what I've been talking about for a while, what it is that he's been showing me regarding the mark and regarding the image. Please comment below. Help me understand if this is coming across clear to you. Most importantly, if the Holy Spirit is testifying to it, because I know what he's doing with me. And honestly, it blows me away when he leads me, when he leads me to this kind of understanding. Thank you for listening. God bless you, and I'll see you in the next video.